Hey dudes, this is one of the strongest farm strategies that we've done in Keeper's League. It's also one of the cheapest, which is great. It's probably the most efficient farm strategy that you can come up with. We've streamed it a little bit, like on Sunday night, and it made a boatload of currency with a very, very low setup cost. It will require a fairly strong build. You can make some changes to reduce the difficulty. We'll kind of get into that in the Atlas passive tree section, but at the end of the day, this is Maven Witness Delirious Guardian bosses. Bit of a mouthful. So there's an expectation that you're kind of going to have to be able to deal some damage and tank a hit or two. But if you can, this is easily the most efficient high-level farm strategy in the game right now. It makes a ton of currency, and the Scarabs all cost like 1 chaos each. So let's get into it, but first be sure to like and subscribe. Something like 2/3 of our viewers aren't subbed, so go ahead and do it. It helps more people see our content, which helps us keep doing this. Join our Discord as well. We've got a great community there. Okay, let's talk about the basics of what we're doing here. We're doing Deli mirrors, we're doing Cirrus Guardians, and then we also have the Maven in there as well. That's pretty much it. Nothing too stressful, right? Right? So we're farming a bunch of reliable currency and a bunch of jackpot currency. The main thing here, though, is just simply that we're casting a wide net. We are farming a lot of stuff at once. We are farming, just to do the list, Deli orbs, simulacrum splinters, upwards of 200 in a lot of maps, but like kind of the average is 150 at least. We're farming Scarabs, tier 17 maps, Guardian maps, Maven's Writs, Maven's Chisels, Guardian boss fragments. Cirrus fragments are like weirdly very valuable. A set of maps is something like 40 or 50 chaos, but then a set of fragments, which you get about 5 or 6 fragments for each set of maps you do because of the Maven invitation, that goes for like 80 chaos. So you're just basically doubling your money on that alone. You're also getting Awakened Gems occasionally, fancy Exalted Orbs occasionally, and then kind of a surprisingly large number of Raw Divines. I think in the span of a few hours, I got like 4 or something Raw Divines, which is like pretty good for a not really that juicy strategy. So in terms of the maps that we're running, it's just tier 14 to tier 16 Cirrus Guardian maps. Not really anything more complicated than that. You can do Shaper Guardians, you can also do Elder Guardians. The positive of Shaper Guardians is that they're cheaper. And also, the maps are basically a big, long, zigzaggy line to the end, so you're gonna, like, pretty much full clear the map every time with Shaper Guardians, so you are gonna get more Simulacrum Splinters out of those. I had one map yesterday in doing this where I had 300 Simulacrum Splinters, essentially just a full Simulacrum dropped from doing the map, which is pretty nice. The only downside to doing Shaper Guardians is Guardian of the Chimera is just a really, really long, boring, slow fight. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, Shaper would be amazing. Elder Guardians, they're all slower because of the Elder phasing. They're really not as great. They're incredibly cheap, and the Elder fragments are fairly valuable, so that's a cheaper option than Cirrus Guardians, but Cirrus bosses are better. You have a better chance of getting the, like, fancy Hunter Exalted Orbs or whatever, which those are worth, like, several divines, and those pop up quite a bit more often than you'd think, so that's definitely the best strategy, is doing Cirrus Guardians. But if you want to bounce back and forth between them, you can do that too. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Atlas passive tree here, and this is what we've got going on, right? We're playing with maps. So I did play with doing like blocking bad Scarabs, Abyss, Expedition, that kind of thing, and the thing is that Deli Scarabs for the most part are kind of bad. But you can block them and then still force mirrors into your maps by taking either like just using a regular Delirium Scarab to force a mirror or taking Delirium on the map device, which is fairly expensive. I think it's 6 chaos a map. The issue with this is the Delirium reward Scarabs, like, you get 7 or 9 Delirium rewards. Those will ignore all of these blocker nodes anyway. So it almost kind of doesn't matter. There's just kind of no point in taking the blocker nodes. I mean, I guess they're still useful, but ultimately we just went with maps because that means more self-sustain for doing the strategy that we're doing where we are running a bunch of different Guardian maps and getting a lot of maps off of the map bosses, and then also getting tier 17s. Those sell for a bunch. So kind of just useful to take a bunch of these small passive nodes or notables, shaping the mountains, shaping the skies, and then shaping the world is really good because we're doing Maven stuff, so we're taking destructive play. There's kind of an incentive to full clear the maps, or at least clear a lot of stuff in the map so that you get more bosses summoned by the Maven casting up the stakes. This is another reason that Cirrus Guardians are just way better than Elder, is you get to kill the map boss, which does count as a map boss for Maven witnessing, but then you also get to have a Maven witnessed Cirrus boss as well, unlike Elder, who's killed the map boss and you don't get to have any of that. With that being said, all the bonuses that apply to the final map boss are applied to all of the map bosses that Maven summons with destructive play, so we want to take everything that'll apply to a final map boss in the entire tree. Chittering Champions, more chances at Scarabs. We are killing a bunch of unique enemies, so we might as well take significant tropes as well to get more Scarabs. Shaping the World, chance for map to drop. That's useful. It's like one extra map from each of the bosses, potentially. Pretty good. And then all of these chances to get like a fancy map. Vivid Memories, not the best, but still useful. Remnants of the Past, chance for an extra drop. Conquered Conquerors, super valuable, probably the best thing that we get from map bosses. All of those different things that give us more maps from bosses. Then other than that, we're kind of doing a lot of the usual stuff. Scarabs, Ambush Scarabs, good. Now, because we're doing Delirium, we have some options available here. We're taking the Singular Eternity so that Delirium Fog lasts a lot longer. It's a lot more forgiving. You can come over the top here and take these two small passives to make it even a little bit more forgiving, and then also get Descent into Madness. This will make the Delirium increase faster as you travel away from the mirror. This is going to make it a lot harder, but also more rewarding. The bosses will be given a decent bump in quant and maybe rarity, I'm honestly not sure, but a quant increase, but they'll also take a lot less damage and do a little bit more damage because of Descent into Madness. So this is a difficulty knob that you can turn on. You can just take that instead of some of the map nodes over here. Basically drop that 6 points, take this, and then just fill in some other points wherever else you want. These three are a decent option, but we're kind of erring on the side of caution in what we're recommending here. We played around with both in testing. Didn't really feel that much of a difference, to be honest. And then we're taking pretty much all the rest of the Delirium nodes, except for the ones that give you a chance to spawn the Mirror of Delirium, and the reason for that is they increase your chance to get Delirium Scarabs, and Delirium Scarabs are mostly pretty bad. So we're just forcing Delirium into our maps, like Delirium Mirrors, either by using a Delirium Scarab or by using the map device. The cheaper option is definitely the Scarab. They're less than 1 Chaos, and, it's just 1 Scarab slot. So then we're taking a bunch of other things like this wheel here that gives you a chance to get Delirium Orbs, and Paranoid Fixation, this 1% chance to get a Deli Orb from unique monsters is pretty bad on its own, but because we're killing a lot more unique monsters, thanks to Maven Witnessing, it's kind of good. It's worth the 1 point. These aren't 8 mod maps, these aren't super fancy maps. You definitely don't want them to have layers of Delirium on them. If you put a Deli Orb on them, then the Deli Mirror can't spawn, so that actually bricks the maps. So, not corrupted, not 8 mods, not anything like that, so Chiseled Perfection's good. Roll them up to 20%, that's pretty much that on that front. And then we're pretty much just taking all the rest of the Delirium notables. Imagine Pursuits gives you +1 to completion, or +1 to your Delirium rewards when you complete the map, and it doesn't seem to count against the, there's kind of a diminishing return, the first reward is very fast, the next ones are pretty fast, and then it slows down, but the +1 that you get out of killing the boss doesn't seem to be affected by the DR at all. We're also taking Screaming Whispers. The 2 small passives on the way here just give you tons of Simulacrum Splinters, and Simulacrums are going for a lot. Last I checked, it was 40 Chaos. Let's double check here. Yeah, 40, 45 Chaos, something like that. Pretty good profit to be able to pull half of one of those in every single map, sometimes more like 2/3 in every map. And then a big part of the reason why we're getting that is these 2 bonuses over here, Compulsive Hoarder. We're getting a lot of rewards out of this. We're not super juicing the Deli Mirrors. This isn't a Tropical Island strategy where we're trying to go for 1 billion rewards out of every Delirium. But we are getting a lot of rewards out of every Delirium. We are killing a lot of bosses, so this is good to have. And then Delusions of Persecution. We're forcing 2 extra Delirium bosses in every single map, so we are getting extra splinters out of those. They can still also spawn on their own, which is a little weird, a little deceptive. We'll get to it a bit more in the Scarab breakdown, but essentially you can get anywhere from 2 to 4 Delirium bosses in your maps, and they drop a ton of Simulacrum Splinters. They also drop some unique Cluster Jewels, which can be useful if you pick them up and corrupt them and get Corrupted Blood immunity or something pretty rare, but potential for a jackpot there. So that's the Atlas passive tree. Pretty straightforward, a little bit of freedom to kind of move some points around though if you need to. Alright, now let's move over to Scarabs in the map device. So we kind of played around with both running just straight quant or running Deli in the map device. Deli in the map device has two downsides. One, it is 6 chaos, which is a fair amount for maps that you're kind of zipping through very quickly. It adds up pretty quickly. And then the other downside is it just gives you a much higher chance to get Deli Scarabs, and Deli Scarabs are mostly very cheap and bad. So I think quant's actually just kind of the better approach. Seems like it. And so what we're running for Scarabs then is 2 of these Mania Scarabs. They give you 100% faster Delirium reward meter fill up, so you can get 9 rewards on pretty much all of your maps. 8 to 9 rewards is like pretty easy to do. They do give you 50% increase faster Delirium like scaling, which means that the content is harder, but also more rewarding. So it's like, you know, it's something you can take one of these out and throw something else in if you want, maybe just like a cartography Scarab of Escalation to get more maps if you really wanted to go that route to make it easier, but this is kind of the approach that we've taken, and it really did pay off. Then the other 2 Scarabs that we're running of the Delirium type are Delirium Scarab of Neuroses. This will make it so that the Delirium encounters in your area contain all unique Delirium bosses, which there are only 2. It's Omniphobia and Kosis. But the thing is, and it's not listed here, it doesn't really, like, indicate it at all, and I honestly don't remember this from the past. This may have changed this league. They're extra bosses. So you can run a map and have this in, and have both of the bosses spawn, and then potentially one or both of Omniphobia and Kosis can also spawn again in the map, and you might have 4 Deli bosses in a single map, and if that happens, you're going to have a ton of Simulacrum Splinters out of that, and potentially like a lot of Deli orbs. You know, you might have 300 Simulacrum Splinters in a single map. We had that last night on stream, in fact. And then we're just running a Deli Scarab, keep things cheap, like very, very basic. And then we're also doing an Influencing Scarab of Conversion, because this gives you, I think it's a 1 in 4 chance for it to be either Shaper or Elder Guardian or Conqueror or Synth maps in every map. So you kind of want to hit tab and just like check your map mods at the start of every map and see like if it's a chance to convert all the maps that drop into Conqueror maps. You probably want to full clear that map out, because Conqueror maps are very valuable. This just helps with being able to self-sustain and only do Conqueror maps instead of having to ping pong back and forth between Shaper, Elder, and Conqueror. If you don't want to run this, or if you want to make some tweaks, the thing that we would recommend, kind of trying to just fit as many of them in as possible, basically, is these Paranoia Scarabs. Now, these are not as cheap. These are like 5 KS each, and that's ultimately why we're not, like, whatever, front-running on recommending these, but they do add 2 extra reward types. They scale really well with Mania. Like, I think a pretty solid setup that's a little different from what we have here is do Deli in the map device, do 2 of these Paranoias, and then 2 Manias. I think that could work really well. It's just like a little bit more expensive. Actually quite a bit more expensive. You go from like 5 Chaos a map on Scarabs, maybe, to like 18 or something, because you're adding 6 from the map device and then 10 from these 2 Scarabs. So a little bit more expensive, but very high potential to get like some really good rewards out of these Paranoias. Also, in testing, these don't seem like they affect the amount of Simulacrum Splinters that drop. Can't say with 100% certainty, but it didn't seem like it. Alright, so one thing that will happen if you do this strategy for a while is you're going to get a massive amount of Deli Orbs. Like, I have 250 fine Deli Orbs, which is great. You're going to have a lot of them that are crappier, Jewelers and Abyssal and whatever, and you can convert all of those at the Horta Crafting Station. They cost 30 blue Harvest Juice to reroll each, so you can just reroll them, and yeah, if they're fine, or Diviners, or Skittering, they are worth considerably more. And so it's kind of up to you whether you feel lucky or not, whether you want to spend time re-rolling them or just sell them as the lower end, or use them yourself as the lower end kind. But, you know, probably a better idea to re-roll them to at least Fine or Diviners. And, you know, there you go. Ton of value there. Alright, one final thing I want to mention here is about the Maven invitations. These are all pretty straightforward. Every set of 4 maps you do, you're going to want to do a Maven invitation, and you can kind of set up Kirak like you can just have an alchemy in your map device so that you can quickly do that with Kirak. You can also use the new tech where you hold shift and then hold alt to switch to scour. In terms of what you're looking for on an invitation, you just want as much quantity as possible, and then mods that your build's able to handle. In terms of actually doing the invitations, they're relatively easy. I guess I would say focus Baran if he's up, like he's the most likely to kill you. Kind of the same goes with Hydra if you're doing Shaper invitations. That's kind of it though. those two guys have the chance to off-screen you, you want to kill them first. Pretty much it. Alright, so that's pretty much the full setup, and now really there's just one final important question here, and that is whether you should boss rush or full clear. So clearing the map out fully before doing the boss will yield more per map, it'll guarantee that you get 3 bosses summoned from the Maven, but it doesn't necessarily mean more currency per hour, right? You know, we're spending very low amounts on each map, it's basically the cost of the map and then a bunch of Scarabs that are virtually free. So it kind of makes more sense to just boss rush if you're doing Cirrus stuff, but with that being said, sometimes the map layouts push you to do a long run through a hallway where you have to kill everything anyway. If you're doing Shaper Guardian maps, and obviously you're going to be full clearing the maps, full clearing will give you a lot more Simulacrum splinters as well. Like, so if the price of Simulacrums goes up, full clearing makes more sense. If you, I don't know, get lucky and just have really good rolls on a map, you know, maybe you want to full clear it out. But otherwise, boss rushing kind of makes more sense. With that being said, I had trouble actually bringing myself to boss rush on stream. I was full clearing pretty much the whole time, so I think either way can go just fine. Alright, here's our thought-provoking question. This one's courtesy of Sunset. What is a TV show that you'd like to bring back from cancellation? There are a lot of good options on this one. I don't think either of us could really settle on just one. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, consider becoming a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.